Now, this brother started with us, what, March 1st, 1994, is that right?
Yes.
What was the name of your lecture that night?
I couldn't tell you.
Anybody know what it was? Something about Sirius? He has done a lot of tapes that he's showing you. He has done tons of tapes, right?
About 70 tapes and about 119 lectures within the last 3 years or so.
Okay.
You know, so.
And you've been everywhere, the east side anyway. Where all have you been? Detroit, Philly.
Let's see, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, Detroit, Virginia, D.C., Philly, New York, and Tennessee, New Jersey.
You been to South Carolina?
Yes, South Carolina, that's my home state, been there several times. So basically all up the East Coast. And that's interesting because there's a different kind of energy on the West Coast. And it's interesting because I have a brother that's with me. His name is, I have a brother that's with me and his name is Brother Juju. He is a brother that,
I want to say something.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay. Well, I was going to say, well, go ahead and you say what you have to say.
You want to tell the story now?
No, you go ahead and, as soon as you get through, I'll tell the story.
When I throw you on your
Yeah, okay, well, you go and tell the story as soon as you get...
the mic back, please?
Oh. Okay.
I didn't want you to put it in.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Yeah. All right. You do that. Well, you can keep it in your pocket and I can...
Anyway, we're going to finish this real quick. Anyway, I was telling you about the different places. He's already told you where he's been and everything. His very first tape was done in 1992.
92, summer of 92.
And that was in black media.
Yeah, the Dogon.
The Dogon. I have that tape.
Well, I actually opened up the weekend of, it's something spiritual. I opened up the weekend of the uprising, what we call riots, but the Rodney King uprising. I opened up with Steve Coakley. And after that, later on, about a month later, I did my first lecture. I did my first lecture in June.
Yeah.
So, in June. So, but I first opened up with Steve Coakley on the uprising in 92.
And there's one thing that we can all say. The people that were there last night, the people there that are here tonight, we love Bobby. Is that true? Stand up and give him a warm welcome. Come on. Let's give it to Bobby. BobbyHemmitt.
Okay, now we ready to go?
Yeah, you can tell your little story.
Yeah, okay. First of all, I'd like to say this about Sister Hatshepsut, better known as Bert, better known as Hatshepsut, alias Bert Lockett, from Rick James' hometown, the freak of the week and the, super freak country. And I want to say this about her is that her, just as the sister from, I have a great relationship with her, just as the sister from Philadelphia, Sister Delilah, who has saved my behind a lot of times based on financial, especially at the, in November when my damn lights got cut off, and and different things like that. So she is an angel, but Sister Bert, what has happened with her is basically, a lot of people might feel that Bert is a little rough around the edges as far as, but one thing I can say about her heart is, you would not believe how her heart is a heart of gold. Her heart is a heart of gold. She was the only person that ever paid me for my videos.
I might pay you this time.
You see, ever paid me for my videos. Now, she's about like me and all. We live one day at a time, and money is scarce or whatever the deal is. But if she does have it, she'll slide me a little something and all, at least when I come here and all, and for different things like that. So she has a heart of gold, and I can say that about her. And I can say this also, too. Whenever I've come to New York and all, she's always made it almost like an entourage, just like I was a king of Spain or somebody. I'm just saying, well, whatever. Well, King of Africa, he ain't gonna get no juice. You know how that is. He do good to still be living, but I'm talking about, as far as the way the white man treat him. But I'm saying, you know, it's always been an entourage and stuff when we travel all over the place. And she's always made it welcome, as well as the Sister Myra here that opened up her house to me also, too, that
Somebody just got an extra room sometime when these speakers come in. We want you to...
Well, the good part about having a speaker to come in, you get the dibs on the question and answers. Or you know what I'm saying? So a lot of that's the good thing. So sometimes when you have a speaker to come in and all, you get them all by yourself and all. You see what I'm saying? And you get to lecture yourself and all. It's just like, you know, having a actually live-in slave, you know, and you get to do what you want to do. You know what I'm saying? So that's the good part about having the speaker and all. You see what I'm saying? So anytime somebody comes to town and all, and they need a place to stay, if they're not so uppity that they have to stay in a hotel. You know, you see, that's the benefit of having them to come stay. And that's one thing that Honorable Elijah Muhammad, they said even when he was in town, when Honorable Elijah Muhammad was on the scene, they said he always would stay at several people's houses. And I've stayed in hotels, but basically you stay at people's houses and stuff. For one thing, it's just good social function among the people that you say that you are actually care about and all. The other thing is if you stay at if you stay at a hotel, hell, you might have to fend for your own damn food. You stay at a person's house and stuff, if they eat, they know sometimes they got to cook you something also, too. You see what I'm saying? So it's a good way of saving what little money if you want it, or money you won't have to spend nothing and all. So that's one good thing about it also, too. But I make it a point to try to stay at most people's houses when I go and speak and all, because I like the hospitality. And the key to all of this is to always stay humble and never literally think that you are special because you got knowledge and teaching people's knowledge. The magic behind that is the knowledge is not my knowledge to give to you. You got to understand the way things go. This knowledge is our knowledge. We wrote this knowledge before we went to sleep, before we died. Because we know anything. If you know anything about reincarnation, you come back over and over again. So we understood that we would be going into slavery and going into this brain death, left for brain dead in the Western Hemisphere. So we prepared everything for us. We prepared everything for us before that happened. You see what I'm saying? So, the knowledge is not necessarily the person who receives the knowledge. It's not necessarily that person's knowledge. This is all the original people's knowledge. So what happens is because we understand that we're all in this particular slave realm, everybody can't have a certain amount of knowledge and stuff, so they just pick a few people to be the custodians or would be the library for the mass of the people. So therefore, no one should ever think that they're special because they have this particular knowledge, because one thing about knowledge is it's supposed to humble you. You're supposed to be humble, because the ego, and we'll talk about that a little bit, the ego, the people with the largest egos are the most arrogant, is the most incomplete of us. If you'll find out, it's most people that you meet that's very arrogant and very egotistical, you'll find out that they have several pathologies, and they use the arrogance, or they use whatever type of degree, or what type of position, or what type of talent that they have to shield the pathology. See, this is a very pathological society, first of all. And this society is very pathological, and what happens is, when we get in things, we get into fraternities, when we get into jobs, we can find all kind of things to shield our pathology. So when America looks at you, when the society looks at you, well, this person is a very successful person. So this is the only society, or the Western society, basically, is the only culture on earth where your actual culture, your actual position in life can actually cover up how insane you are. So arrogance coincides with ignorance. The more knowledge you have, the more secure you're supposed to be, and there won't be no need to boast and to show someone that you are knowledgeable. If you see certain people that have to show you how smart they are, that's because they're wrestling with an inferiority on the inside in the first place. You see? And that's why it's interesting that it's very crucial at this particular time that you get the Gnostic scriptures. The Gnostic scriptures. Why the Gnostic scriptures? The Gnostic scriptures are the esoteric scriptures of the Bible. This is very crucial. This book is a must-read and a must-have in your library. It costs $29.95, $30. This is a must-have book because these are the Gnostic scriptures. The Gnostic scriptures, and let me explain this, the esoteric part of Christianity, which is the exoteric, which is only a moralistic code based on social governing of a people to keep people in line, basically, that was needed in the Roman Empire. Okay. That is basically the opium of the masses, and basically it's something to govern, and it only gives you fragments, like I said last night, of the original knowledge, gnosis, which means divine knowing. So the esoteric version of Christianity is Gnosticism. The key is this would have been lost, but in Nag Hammadi, Egypt, in 1945, after they dropped the atomic bomb, they found the original Gnostic scriptures. The key is the Gnostic scriptures is dialectically different than the actual Bible, until in order to put it out, it took them almost from 1945 to 1977 to just release them, because the actual theologians had to come in and try to make it similar to that of what the later material of the Bible was to release it. Now what happened is this. What happened is this. In Rome, they needed a new religion because the simple fact that Romulus and Remus was not making it for them. They were on the decline. So they had inherited the Gnostic scriptures from the Greeks that the Greeks got out of Egypt. And so therefore, by them, because they had conquered Greece, so they went and took all of their particular scholars and even had some Jewish scholars to defect and start writing for the Roman government, Josephus. And they sat around and they said, well, we must take these Gnostic scriptures and translate them and make the New Testament. As a result, but they made the New Testament moralistic, fire and brimstone. You dying and going to hell based on evil, to control the Roman attitude. So it's positive because the damn Romans was known for killing everybody in the world. So in order to control their particular people, these particular scientists knew that they had to give them moralistic code. But in the process of doing that, they destroyed the Gnostic scriptures that was brought out of Coptic Egypt by Greece. But the Gnostic groups of people, the Gnostic people, which is the group of black people from Egypt, was still living at the time. So what they did is they had to hunt them down, most of them, and kill them off. So it's like it's the same old story you see on anything, whereas you got an idea, you got the real thing. I'm going to plagiarize your stuff and turn it around so it can be politically a tool for politics for me. But in the context, to make sure that nobody don't find the original scripts that would say that, hey, there's a lot more to this, I have to kill you off. So it's the same thing, you steal somebody's stuff and then you kill them. Say, it's mine. Well, that's what happened. But that's what happened, and they would have got away with it until 1945, when the Nag Hammadi text was dug up. But then they held on to most of it up until 1977, and then you had the Nag Hammadi library. But now the new revision of this, which one of the guys that worked on the Gnostic scripts in 1977 is Bentley Layton. Bentley Layton, the Gnostic scriptures by Bentley Layton. The ancient wisdom for the new age. Ancient wisdom for the new age. And so we're going to be uncovering a lot of that this time, because that's very important at this particular time that we deal with that. Here's another one. Jung in the Lost Gospels, because Carl Jung purchased 1/2 of the Gnostic scriptures that was dug up at Nag Hammadi called the Jung Codex now. Anyway, it's by Stephen H. Hollier, Jung and the Lost Gospels, Insights into the Dead Sea Scrolls in the Nag Hammadi Library. It's a $10 book, $10.95, put out by Quest Books. There's another one also called the Jung. It's called Jung or Young, the Lost Gospels and the Seven Sermons of the Dead. It's called the Gnostic Jung and the Seven Sermons of the Dead. And we'll go into this tonight also too. But in a few minutes. Now, what I wanted to say also about the brother Juju, which is a particular person that was born. I think he's 52 now. Anyway, he was born basically on another plane, whereas basically he was in between dimensions, so therefore it wasn't like your regular psychic that would have to actually tap into. He was basically on two planes, so therefore he was living with the actual ancient people that we call the hierarchy and living on earth at the same time. So all his thoughts are basically channels. He talks in this way 24 hours a day. So therefore he might say something and he talks in code. And he'll say something and we might not even understand it until a year later. And all, but also too, there's a different energy. He mentions that there's a different energy that's going on out west at this particular time that is not necessarily a healthy energy. Because most black people are on the East Coast. And also too, because you got to realize that although we do know that New York is one of the places that basically had great massacres of the Native Americans also, but we also know that whole Western thing also. You see, which basically was the last frontier to actually kill them off. So how the West was won is a celebration of the white man killing off the doggone Indians. So there's a lot of energy. There's a lot of energy out there that's kind of disproportionate, and the energy would be this way also too. But you got more brothers and sisters or more indigenous people in the West also, in the West also. So tapping into this, getting out of this moral code. The mystery system that we talk about, and we have to stress this because this is killing people. The mystery system that we talk about had nothing to do with moral code for the simple fact that the people that was practicing it was just like the animals. The animals don't need no damn book to be what its nature is. So we're talking about a matter of nature. The only time you need moral code is somehow something got out of hand. And a person's nature is not that nature of the whole planet, not the same nature of either the animals, which follow their own nature, which is almost accurate, and the original people, providing they're not indoctrinated, that follow their nature also. So therefore, that would be the need of moral code. But what we're talking about here is every day in your life, you must break this spell of thinking that everything is based on how you behave. Good behavior has nothing to do with original gnosis and the ascension to the higher level. It's energy, and you were born with that particular energy. And the more you tap into that energy and throw off the shackles of what we would call the petty world, which would be basically detailed rituals and detailed cultural nonsense. That is, this baggage that was put on 2,000 years ago of lesser groups of people who didn't have a cultural background in spirituality, which would be the Europeans, basically, and all these particular customs that they have now have nothing to do at all with spirituality whatsoever. The main key is these customs are very important to them because they have to deal with things outer, because inner is lacking. So that's why their spiritual world is based on outer. And if you're dealing with things outer, then basically most of the time you got to deal with how you behave, what you wear, what you eat. But if you're dealing with things inner, you will find out that man is imprisoned in an inferior vessel. And that's the mystery of Christ being nailed to the cross. Man is imprisoned in an inferior vessel that we'll go into also too. Dealing with the moral code, I want to read something of the angel Awas that I also talk about. The channel, Awas is nothing but an ancient form of the god Heru, that channel the holy books of Thelema as well as the book of law to Aleister Crowley in 1904. in the book of law, I think the holy books in 1919. But I want to read like a paragraph of what he says here. It says, I am the Lord of initiation, Amen. Because if you understand Amen, which is the hidden God, Amen means hidden, and Ra, it means the hidden son, Ra Heru Kahudi, which is another form of the Christ child, Heru, or the Christ God, Heru. He says, I fly alike as a hawk, which is the hawk, this is Heru, and of the mother emerald are the mighty sweeping wings. I swoop down upon the black earth. You see, I swoop down upon the black earth, and they're not talking about the earth, they're talking about the black people on earth. I swoop down upon the black earth, and it gladdens, and it gladdens, the earth is glad, and it gladdens into the green of my coming. They are happy that he's coming. This is an end time type of apocalyptic type of an apocalypse that necessarily doesn't mean disaster as much as it means end time events, which also has disaster. Thank God to that. And the children of earth rejoice exceedingly, for your salvation is at hand, and the end of sorrow is come. You know, that's the way they talk, is come. I will ravish you away with my utterable joy. I will kiss you and bring you to bridal. Anytime you talk about bridal, that's talking about alchemy, where you have certain alchemical components in your body merging with the other components of your body, because the universe is inside your body, and you have this particular energy, the kundalini and the black dot and the fire and the whole merge of this sacred marriage that it talks about. I will spread a feast before you in my house of happiness. Then this is the key. I am not come to rebuke you. I am not come to rebuke you or enslave you. I bid you not to turn from your voluptuous ways and all your follies, all your illness and from your follies. I bring you pleasure and peace and laughter and wisdom to your folly, or your folly. So, all ye do right to be is to enjoy it. Now, what I mean by that is, this is trying to show you a higher form of knowledge or gnosis that is meant for us. That means that it has nothing to do with the way you behave. Why? Because based on behavior, none of us will illuminate if it was based on behavior. Because as a man thinketh, so is he. So therefore, we always have these particular thoughts, and you'll continue having these thoughts on the lower realm. So based on behavior, no one could ever illuminate or go to the higher level. So therefore, they're talking this because that is the curse that we have. The curse that we have is we have a certain energy given, a certain energy field will rise automatically. But that energy can be shut down based on the way we think, and thinking that we are less than who we are, and thinking that we are wretches, like the Bible says, a wretch like me. You see what I'm saying? And thinking that we are wretches, so therefore you limit your capacity just on the doctrine that comes that says that you are inferior. Whereas in the Gnostic scripture, you are the other way around. The angel, the God that creates the earth, later on finds out that the man that he has created, by not with the help of the hierarchy, because this is a lower subordinate being, angel, the man that he has created, by some mishaps or some way that he didn't know, Sophia comes down and put the energy that he should have had into the man, and the man becomes superior over this particular God, the supreme being. The God that is a jealous God. Why is he jealous? He is jealous because he understands that the particular man on earth has the goods over him. Now this has no. So what we're talking about the God that's higher than him is the unknown God, the sun behind the sun, the child of the mother, the star system Sirius is the light or the astronomical vehicle of this particular God. But the one that you worship, the one that created the earth, is a subordinate being who is called the supreme being, Jehovah, a subordinate being. So the reason, and this is in all cultures, the Egyptians talk about it, the Dogon talk about it, and even in the book of Enoch that they didn't add in the New Testament talks about it. And the Gnostic scriptures, which is the esoteric counterpart, gives you the complete background that they dug up in 1945. That we'll go back in and question and answer also too. That we'll go back in and question question and answers too. So therefore, by the great mother Sophia, the great mother Sophia comes in, and the great mother gives the man on earth the power over this particular being, that one day this man on earth would overthrow this particular being. And the word woman or woman gives way to human. So human is a derivative of woman. Is a derivative of woman also. We'll give you some bibliography on that also too. Also coming out of the actual Gnostic scripture. So we want to get into a little bit of hard copy, and then, you know, as we always do, we'll get into a little bit of hard copy, and then we'll go into some other things that we dealt with also. So now, in the hard copy, and you know the hard copy is the things that's happening all over the earth at this particular time. And the hard copies that we understand at this particular time that, first of all, like I told the people in Philly the last time I was there, is crystallized water is a thing that you should look into drinking. And basically what you do is that you just take any crystal and put it in the bottom of your water. And you put a crystal in the bottom of your water, the crystal immediately crystallizes the water and gives you energy to drink that water. If you have children, I would suggest you just put the crystal in the bottom of your glass and then drink it like that. But if you don't have children, you can also put the crystal in the bottom of a plastic jug, and then you can crystallize the whole water. But you know, children, you know, you run a chance of them swallowing the crystal because they swallow nickels and clothespins and everything they get their hands on. So crystallized water is a thing that we also talk about, this is very needed at this particular time, that you should also deal with. I want to talk about also, I want to get this on tape because the last time I talked at Reverend Valentine's up here, this particular part got cut off. And so by it being cut off, we need certain things documented. So Sister Burt brought it to my attention to put this on tape. And that is the murder of Sheikh Anta Diop. The murder of Sheikh Anta Diop. There's certain ways of getting certain information. First of all, if you just understand the science, that what happened was Diop came to the, and for those people who don't know that Diop to get his particular works, number one, they had a close eye on Diop from the get-go, because Diop in his book African Origins, Myth or Reality, talked about the Tamahu. I think in chapter 10 or whatever you were looking, he talked about the Tamahu. He just left that missing page out, the missing page out of the creation of the white man. He left this particular missing page out. Now, for remember that Champollion is the one that wrote the 13 letters back to his older brother, Champollion the Elder. Now we even got further information from the black Egyptologist, the sister Makembe Quetty. Is that her name? What's the... Maketi Wimby. Yeah, I got it backwards here. Maketi Wimby. That also said that based on what she has learned is that even Champollion could not basically decode the Rosetta Stone, that it was a black man that helped him. Because they could not understand certain linguistics and phonics, but the black person being spiritual could automatically tap into things, although he might have never known about hieroglyphics or metaneta. So they don't let you know that it was an actual black man that helped them, and it was the black person that actually literally taught them how to break the codes. And as usual, just like throughout all the part of the, from slavery on up, the white man gets the credit. You see what I'm saying? The white man gets the credit. And sometime, if you're ever in Detroit, Michigan, you need to visit Wayne State University if you can get somebody to get you up in there, because Wayne State University is very important, because Wayne State University has the most amount of black people to go to a non-all-black college because this is basically a regular white college, but there's a huge influx of black people go there because there's not a black college in Detroit. So Wayne State has a big student enrollment of black people, but if you ever go there, they have draws, just literally draws of files of all the stuff that was stolen from black people that we invented. And based on that particular information at Wayne State University, damn near everything that you can think of is basically stolen from black people.
That's right, Jack.
You see what I'm saying? Basically stolen from black people. But we find this out, that even Champollion, who got credit for it, really didn't break the keys on that. You see what I'm saying? Really didn't break the keys on that. Also, I told you that the father of metaphysics was a guy, H.P. Randolph, that actually, PB something, I think it's H.P. Randolph, that traveled that new President Lincoln went to the pyramids and was a world-renowned scholar. As a matter of fact, there's a book out now called The Hermetic Brotherhood of Luxor. Hermetic Brotherhood of Luxor, big thick book put out by Samuel Weiser. And in that particular book, this particular Hermetic Brotherhood of Luxor, they have a picture of H.P. Randolph in it in his life story. And also he was a contemporary that taught Madame Blavatsky her particular information. You see what I'm saying? So he is attributed to the original father of metaphysics. It's hard to find his works, although you still can find the book Sex Magic that was put out by Magical Child up here, but you can still find it. I think it's still being printed. It's one of his particular books. But I do know his life story is in that particular book, Hermetic Brotherhood of Luxor, which was this particular group, all spin-off of the Rosicrucians, and they actually had this brother also in it. But getting back to Diop was one of the people that also knew about the Tamahu, which is the created white man. Not only did he know about the Tamahu, which is the created white man, he found some bones and some fossils that could also dismiss and link that the white boy talk about, but it didn't have a damn thing to do with us because we were the Nephilim that came down, those who had come down, but it also had a lineage of dismiss and link based on this particular European. And so therefore, I think he was getting ready to break this particular information to the world, because he had found his element that he couldn't find in his contemporaries in Europe or his contemporaries in Africa, that he found this element in the United States of black people at this particular time is ready. So when he spoke at the King Center in Atlanta in 1986, right after that he died. And that's because they literally poisoned him on the plane. And he died on the plane. So they called his wife to come to the airport, and when she got there, they said, you can do two things. Either you can die with him, or you can go home and shut your mouth, and we can announce a month or whenever after that this man is dead. And by the way, give up all his papers to the French government. And that's why she gave up the papers to the French government. But he was killed. He was killed. Also, but it wasn't nothing that wasn't already published in the book Astro Body, A.E. Powers' Astro Body. In a section called The Human Artificials, there's a section where they talk about the origin of race, and it also links the European with the ape. But he gives a footnote, to go to Blavatsky's Secret Doctrines, and also to Blavatsky's Secret Doctrines, and in there she talks about the ape. You can get two books, the A.E. Powers, The Astro Body, which is a must read, which should be a Bible. A.E. Powers, The Astro Body, and also C.W. Ledbetter's book, The Astral Planes. C.W. Ledbetter's book, The Astral Planes. These are books that also you should understand the astro body just to try to understand the other realms of the invisible. The other realms of the invisible. There's another book that the Yoruba, most of the Yoruba priests use, and it's called the Spirits Book. It's called the Spirits Book. All I know is put out by Samuel Weiser, and it's called the Spirits Book. I can't think of the author's name, and he has another book called Mediums. It's one of the chief books that the Babylon use, and it's written by a European, but it's one of the best books on how the actual spirit realm works. It also was one of the books that was used to make the movie Ghost. When they wanted to get a certain information from the movie Ghost, they used that Spirits book, and the second book is William's book. So it's very key that you get those books, you see. But it's very key, everybody should have A.E. Powers' Astro Body and C.W. Ledbetter's Astroplane, as well as C.W. Ledbetter's Hidden Life of Freemasonry. His Hidden Life of Freemasonry. Very key that you get that book, because that book actually shows that the Masonic robe came from the Egyptian robe, which later on you understand that the Scottish Celt, which came from also the Scottish Rite and the whole Egyptian robe also too, that they just took it and fused it in their particular fabric of the Highlanders, which get the movie Highlander that deals with Sean Connery teaching the Highlanders, I am an Egyptian, which leads to the gypsies, who are the bastardized children or the leftover children of the Moors. And gypsy means Egyptian, which also links the Egyptian with the Moors. You see what I'm saying? So also you can also order Lieutenant Colonel A.E. Powers' book Solar System, which they put pressure on most book companies that cannot print it. They can't print the solar system. There's several things up in there on the European that they don't want anybody to know. So no major book companies can print it, because the Theosophical Society adds pressure and brings suit because they own the particular information. But the outprint book company, Health Research, out of California, they print the book Solar System by A.E. Powell. And the way they had to get it, they had to literally go in somebody's library and take the book. So the Solar System, very key book. But going back to Sheikh Anta Diop, he also had this particular information on the Tamahu, which you can get in his African Origin of Civilization, Myth, or Reality. But there's one missing page of Champolion's work that you can find in Gerald Massey's book in the beginning, Volume 1, page 27, which is the actual part on the Egyptian wall of the temple of Seti I that was removed later on, that gives you the races of men, and it tells you that the white man is a created man, and both the Ruti and the Suti created the Tamahu. That has been removed, and since then the temple has been torn down and rebuilt, which they completed in 1982. But if you get you can get any Dr. Ben books, and you'll see the newer temple. But you could also get the travelers, the Renaissance and the travelers in Egypt of the 1900s, 19th century, and a picture of the original temple, and it's totally different. Now, how can a temple stay hundreds of years, and by the time Napoleon comes in, it's one of the most intact temples, but by 1982, it's in shambles, because the temple had too much in it that they had to remove. And Champollion, he wrote back to his brother, he said, I'm so disappointed on what I found in also the tombs of Ramses V and also the temple of Seti I, which focused on race at that particular time, because this is actually the most holiest place in Egypt, which was called the First Holy Land at Abydos. You see what I'm saying? At Abydos. Also, I give a whole history of that in my tape, Egyptian Mysteries, put out by Clemson Brown. Which you have any of those?
Is that the one from the Slave Theater?
No, not this is one where I was at Clemson Brown home, and I actually had the actual pictures.
I got that tape.
If you get that tape I go into the entire history. So Sister Hatshepsut has a particular tape put out by that. It's the Egyptian Mysteries that they go into that particular information. But they killed Diop because not because of civilization of barbarism. Why would the French government asked for, tell his wife, we want this particular stuff back, when Civilization of Barbarism is already printed, already on the way of being printed? That meant it was some other information. Just as the information by Alan H. Gardner, the grandfather of Martin Bernal, that wrote a book called Abduction Extraordinaire, taken from the Hieratic Papyrus of the British Museum. The Abduction Extraordinaire that never got to the Atlantic, got across the Atlantic, and was always in French. It talks about above Egypt abnormal people. Above Egypt abnormal people. The reason why I'm privy to this particular information is because, like I said, and I said many times, they sent a book of papyruses to the theological cemetery, International Theological Cemetery in Atlanta, Georgia. By them not knowing what they had, they sat on this particular book for 20 years. But when we became back into our particular knowledge and the Afrocentric movement started back up, the Emory University went in and stole the book from Woodruff Library, which is in the AU Center. So I went to Emory and stole the book from them. Stole the book from them. Which is a research book never meant to be sold to the public by H.T. Baldy. But in this particular book, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to print the book my damn self and sell it on the Xerox thing. But in this particular book, they also have the keys to homosexual papyruses, as well as the contentions of Horus and Set and all. And basically what they're talking about here is this particular book is dealing with, the mythology is dealing with the nature of a people on the earth that is not human. That they call it the spittle. That they tore out the mother's womb side and he's the spittle. And he's not all the way human. And also it's dealing with that particular information, as well as I will read to you, as well as the British Museum that I'll read to you, as I did many times, the Hermetic Papyrus to the British Museum, where it tells you on 5,000-year-old papyrus, where it says, it shows the idea of the barbarians. They live in a miserable part of the world. The water supply is wretched. That forces them to lead a nomadic existence. Although the ways of communication is poor because of the mountains and the forests. Hence they have a restless nature and always grumbling, because at that particular time they could not talk. Ruins of empires, born in ruins of empires tell you that we even had to teach them how to speak. They're always grumbling, and they cannot finally be defeated since the time of Horus. However, because they are so treacherous, they do not openly announce the day of battle, which means that they're just basically, a lot of this is sociological and psychological that you can apply to different various aspects of life. Like thieves, they shun a united army. In the Egyptian Book of Dreams, the characteristics has followed that are sets enumerated. Now, in the Egyptian Book of Dreams, the only Egyptian Book of Dreams that's left around that is printed in Bob Breyer's book, Egyptian Magic. Bob Breyer is the one that recently mummified the body on National Geographic. Bob Breyer, so he prints a part of the Egyptian Book of Dreams, but this particular part is not in it. In the Egyptian Book of Dreams, the characters of the followers of Set is enumerated. This particular Set type, and the one that they're talking about here, is the Set type, the slayer of Osiris, which is the prototype of Satan. It is surely not going to. It is surely not by chance that we find the word Asiatics in this corrupt passage. Now remember, they were called the miserable Asiatics because there was no Europe at that particular time, and excuse me. I got to slow down. I get happy and all, and then I have to slow down and find my line and stuff. Asiatics in this corrupt passage. It may not be going too far to suppose, according to the Book of Dreams, that the followers of Set are typical foreigners. Foreigners are Sethian people. Their sexual conduct is reprehensible because they're asexual. They are given to drink and quarrelsome and murderous. They will indeed not reach the west, but they will land in the neither world. The west, which means the sun rises in the east and the end time sets in the west. But the neither world is talking about a lower astral plane. You see what I'm saying? The lower astral plane also. So we do have this particular, and I think I've held on to it long enough to actually go in and print the particular book out. So what I'll do is I'll give it to somebody and let them have the task of printing it out and all, and then we'll just sell them as it is and all, and you can actually study that also too. So I just study that also too. So now also now what we're dealing with some things as when we're dealing with this about the, and I started telling you about this the other week, other day, about them patenting DNA. They putting patents on in this archaeology magazine, September, October, the quest for DNA, tracking modern human origins and the fingerprinting the pharaohs and the queens. So they're also talking about this particular DNA patterning, or also the quest for DNA. In this particular one in Archaeology Magazine. Now remember now, in research, if the magazine is off the stand and you can't get the magazine, you basically just go to your local library, and they always have stuff on microfilm. And you microfilm it and then you print it out. You understand? So this is ways you can also get things also too. And also too. And I was using the bathroom in Delilah's house, and she had this in the bathroom and all, and that's how I was able to find it. And all, you know, also able to find it. So they killed Diop, which is very interesting. Also, like I said, that Michael Jackson, and I mentioned this at Reverend Valentine, but we want to put it on the tape. We want to document a good tape because I was cut off the other week and wasn't able to finish it. So for the last night and the night, we'll make up the 2 sets, and I need to document certain things that I said. But like I mentioned at Reverend Valentine, that Michael Jackson basically, when he did his skin peel, the acid peel, anyone knows if you peel your skin, the melanin will grow back, and the spots will be even darker than what they used to be. That's like people used to take the amber and the archery and put on their face, the bleaching creams, and then when the sun hit them, they became blacker than what they were before they got bleached out. So what happens is, in order for Michael Jackson to remain white, the doctors with laser surgery went in and basically, and I don't think that he knew what was going on, and they basically lasered his pineal gland so it wouldn't secrete melanin. And they altered it. And basically with laser does a lot of burning and melting. So if you know anything, if you was to get something was to hit your head the right way, and something if you got burned in your head, if those pores are slicked over, it will never produce hair anymore. You can't grow hair anymore there. So it's the same thing with the pineal or any type of thing that's slicked over. It becomes like a cast. You see what I'm saying? And you won't be able to actually produce anything. So basically they lasered his pineal gland, and that's the reason why he can't produce melanin. And so now he's worse than the European. He can't go in the sun at all. You see what I'm saying? Can't go in the sun at all. But it also just goes to show you how far this beast is going, and also too. Now I also talk about in the Crowley mythos that you talk about 418, which is 1 plus 4 plus 8 is 13, and 13 is a lucky number for black people. There's also in the Crowley mythos, and if you study any of the stuff, the number 718, which might I add got to be pretty spiritual for the simple fact that 718 is also the area code for what? Brooklyn? And the Queens? Brooklyn, Bronx, and Queens. You see what I'm saying? So that's very interesting. But 718 is another word for the union of melanin also. The melanin also. We'll get into the metaphysical versions of what that actually means. What that actually means also too. You know, yeah. So what that actually means too. So now it's dealing with some other stuff. The movie Lady Hawk. The movie Lady Hawk is a movie that needs to you need to study also too, because in there you will see the hawk. And also you will see a black dog that also represents the form of Anubis, and the hawk also represents a form of Heru. Anubis is also in some mythos the same warner of Tahuti, which comes before huh?
I don't want to interrupt that. I just want to talk to you outside for a minute.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. Sister Bert, this brother came down to see me, and something important he needs to say to me, so I just want you to stop the tape right quick so I take a little pause so I can go and speak to the brother. We take a little break because it's very important that I see the brother before he leaves. Yeah. You know the deal. You must ride. Hey, man, what's up? See them move back?
Why are you going so black? We can't get this light right.
Well, is it going to be black? Let me see. Ah, look.
Now, how you going to see it? You over here.
Turn it around. Let's see. Oh.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Not too bad.
But maybe that's because the,
Why don't you put the light down?
huh?
Why don't you put the light down?
Cut off this one and see what happens.
That's what I was doing. Remember, that's what I did before.
Let me see. Now cut off this one.
It's right next to you.
It's right there.
Okay. No, that's even worse. That's the problem. Ain't enough light up here. Maybe you need to bring that closer.
Or maybe you need to come out this way. No, you need to bring that light closer.
Okay, yeah. Just go ahead and take all that, sis.
Don't forget y'all can get these.
I think everybody.
I'll explain it to you later.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you put that light in here,
I think my only problem is it's kind of bad. I see now, I never really lectured during Christmas time, and I see now it's really well, it's actually a bad time. I'm not talking about this, I'm just saying, closer to Christmas, people ain't, people still go to that old Christmas shopping and stuff, so therefore, I see that the crowd is not like it was last night, and we know the reason why. You see what I'm saying?
There's supposed to be some other folks that's supposed to come in here.
Yeah. Well, maybe, let's see. Well, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. Now it's got a line in this straight down the middle. What's that?
That's from above.
Yeah, it is. Light bulb. Yeah, that's cool. Hey.
They're a handsome guy sitting
Yeah.
standing there.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, you know what I'm saying.
Whatever.
Just say my melanin kicked in on this one. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Wait a minute, I'm going to...
Okay, you ready?
Okay, at least the camera. Oh.
Okay.
What you do with the things?
Okay. Let me know when you're ready to go.
Good job. You do.
I'm ready now? Okay. Okay. Also, like I said, dealing with this new thing on the way they're going to do things on, the way they're getting ready to do things, with this welfare. With this welfare is, the catch is, first of all, based on this particular welfare bill, you don't really know what's in it. They will read the first page to you, and you will think that's the welfare bill. Because a bill this thick, no way they're going to read it to you on TV in a news spot. So basically you don't know, and based on the way laws are, basically the states can cut it out any day. So it don't have to be 2 years. They will get that past Congress, and, well, they will get that past you. You see what I'm saying? So you don't riot in the streets. And you're saying, yeah, it's good, we need to revamp the system, but where it is, they can cut out things and people can be more homeless. You see what I'm saying? Also, they say they will give new jobs, but also in the new jobs is a catch-22. The new jobs will not give you full time. So if they don't give you full time and you don't get 8 hours and stuff, you can't support anything anyway. So therefore, you shit out of luck also. So it's very key that we understand that with this, that we might be seeing a lot more homeless now. Hell, since the Reagan era, they have produced the biggest homeless population since the Depression. So what can you think about it when they cut out welfare? You see what I'm saying? And like I said also, because they can take some of the actual poor whites, because like I said, they need those particular people for body parts anyway. So like I said last night when we also talking about the concentration camps. So poor whites is just like Negroes. They just shit out of luck. You see what I'm saying? So when they say, well, it's mostly white people on welfare, that doesn't matter. The amount of black people that they can catch, you see, based on per capita, there's a lot of people. So it's very key that you understand that particular information that's going on. Now, one thing about this particular O.J. Simpson trial is there's a war going on between black and whites. But the war is going on spiritually because you're getting ready to get out of this. Doesn't necessarily have to be fought in a revolutionary style. It's being fought out in the courts. just as it will be fought out, they talk about in the contendings of Horus and Set, and also the contendings of Horus and Set, and also this particular book that I have here. This particular book that I have is called the Osirian Myth. This is coming from the University of Detroit, of Michigan, and it's called the Osirian Myth. And in here they have a particular court case and a trial that they would say that would be the biggest trial in world history. So when it comes down to us, because you're thinking of the mythology, you don't see the actual trial as it comes on. So they said that this particular trial, based on the Osirian myth, there will be a trial in the end time that will be bigger than any trial or anything that anybody could ever imagine. We know that that is the O.J. Simpson trial. So it's the trial of a mentor. But the only beautiful part about that is this. In the mythos, when the trial starts, it's at the end of the world, and it's at the great judgment. So it's the same great judgment that they talk about in the Bible, but it's not in this poetic, mythical form of the way you think it, the sky opening up and person sitting on a cloud. Things register right here before our eyes, and we see these particular things, and we, by us not actually understanding adequate mythology, because basically we study one mythology, the Bible, or we study the major world religions that does not contain enough gnosis, divine knowing or knowledge, to give you the adequate amount of knowledge to see things right before your eyes. But anytime they come on TV, on the Charles Grodin show, and they're asking for this man's death, they want him to kill himself. You see what I'm saying? This is amazing. They blew up a whole building last year, 2 years ago, and you don't hear anything about it. Take down planes and kill up people, and you don't hear nothing about it. 2 people get killed. You understand? And they can't live without it. And this is based on the war and based on the psychology of the white man, and this whole thing is coming out because it's spiritual. It's very spiritual, you see. And if you read between the lines, you can understand this stuff as well as, you have a Barnes & Nobles up here, right? Go to Barnes & Nobles, or you can ask them, there's a book company in Atlanta or in New Jersey called Gramercy Books. They put out out-of-print books. They put out out-of-print books. Or they reprint old books. Now, in order to get a hardback version of Burge's Book of the Dead, when I checked in New York in 1990, they were about like $300 to get one. So this Gramercy Books back in 95 started printing, 95, printed the Book of Coming Forth by Day, the original volume of Burge's with all his notes in it, in 95, and it's a hardback version, and you can get it for $13. Now that's key because they print books, and these books are budget books, but they're printed new. So Gramercy Books, and get the E. Wallace Burge, the hardback version. You can go to Barnes & Nobles, usually sell them, and basically Colossal can order some for you, and they're only $13 for a big thick particular Book of Coming Forth by Day. And in there, in one of the sections in the introduction, they actually talk about this great court trial of this great court case. Also in the book From Fetish to God, Ancient Egypt from Fetish to God, in this particular book by E. Wallace Burge, you can also find the court case, this great court case, this judicial court case, in the section of the papyrus called the Contendings of Horus and Set. And they will also deal with the court case in there too. Now, it's not going to so much look like the O.J. Simpson verdict if you don't understand mythology and how mythology works. But it is definitely the O.J. Simpson verdict because I studied it about a month. All of the different papyruses, I studied it about a month in the fall of 95, right after the verdict, or right before the verdict, So that's very key. But also, like I said, that Alfred Hitchcock movies, all of Alfred Hitchcock movies was the O.J. Simpson verdict was also a composite of several Alfred Hitchcock movies. Because in most of all of Alfred Hitchcock movies is always deal with a person that's innocent, but the entire country knows he's guilty. As well as to set they also set it up based on the domestic violence. So in order to set this particular domestic violence case up, they had to release the movie What's Love Got to Do With It a year before the murders. It came out in 1993. And then this came out in 1994, the actual murders, to get you sensitive to the O.J. Simpson trial, and also based on the research of Pearl Cleage's book, Mad at Mouths, based on the domestic violence. And we're not condoning domestic violence, but we understand how the beast does things to make people sensitive to this. You have to look into the insights on whether there is domestic violence into the black community, because most white people don't really know of the social functions into the black community, but based on what the TV gives them. So all of a sudden they're going to make a black movie and it's about some negative domestic violence, which Michael Landon was an ultimate wife beater, as well